As you know, we delivered the material to the University of Sierra Leone for Ebola. Strange enough, the government says they do not see the performance they were expecting. And if you go back, as I said to you in the meeting which was done at the Presidential Palace, professors from Harvard University were present. And strange enough, if you go on the Facebooks or the connections of people who send me that email, scientists at Harvard University have shown exact GANs and its operation through pictures that they found a solution for Ebola. So very immediately we are blocked in Sierra Leone, and then it becomes an invention and discovery by Harvard University. I'll put the link on the website, you can see on the forum. And they explain exactly how Ebola will attach itself exactly like a GANs, as we explained and our scientists explained to the presentation at the Presidential Palace, within a matter of a week, 10 days after they were shown. Now we show the level of cheating going on at the highest level. This is another Mr. what do you call him? Stephen Hawking business. Now more people are dying because the technology is blocked by people. Now they want to sell it as a designer medicine in the benefit of another nation. We tell you how. If you are affected by Ebola or E. coli or anything, CO2 gans on a top level where there is a fat, that has an amino acid link, because it's a natural, pure base amino acid. In transferring to the body, because it's attached itself to amino acid exactly as a copy of a virus, will take Ebola energy virus away from it, and you walk away with nothing. This is how we will handle space technology viruses. You have the virus energy, at the same time you need the link to human body, which is the amino acid protein, which is these layers of fat you've been seeing on top of your box. When you're creating CO2s, that fat, it means is level equal to the CO2, which is the amino acid level equal to the human body. So when you have a problem next time, not in the big dosages, you have to do in the small dosages. You have the protein. You have to understand the work of the virus attaches itself to like a protein. So now you have the antidote for any virus in the space. This is part of the defense technology. The people who put their finger in the liquids in the lab, or other people who've been trying, and they say it does nothing because you were not poisoned. To use the gans as a food is totally different process. So now what has been stopped by the World Health Organization in saving your life is at the reach of every man. Virus needs to attach itself to a protein link. CO2 is a gans. Harvard University confirms now they want to attach this thing to a protein to see how it performs. You already created on the top layer the matching protein for it. This is how man's life was created on this planet. So now you understand how in the space you protect yourself from viruses which you do not understand, but is magnetically filled and it gets attached to your body. All you need to do, because your body is made of cancer structure, use the top layer. Never touch copper oxide. Copper oxide works as a metal and increases the cancer level. CO2 is at the level of the NCHO3. It is within the compound of the amino acid, because the amino acid is made of the N, C, O, and H. So you attach the same to the same, and you take a small dosages every 5 minutes at the beginning. for about 3 times, and then you increase it to every 1 hour till the virus is absorbed, attaches itself, the energy of it gets absorbed by the plasma of the CO2 in a gas state, which is connected to your protein. Now you know how I'm taking my family out.
Hi, I have a question.
I will open it if...
No, there's another question, Lucian.
No, I mean mine will be longer, so let the,
Yes.
I think, Brett, yeah.
Is there any questions?
So,
Or do
Brett,
we go
go
home?
ahead, because you will be...
Go ahead, Ivan.
So I wanted to ask, I saw about the plasma pin, the nanomaterial in the reactor. When we built the container to create the plasma, you say when the plasma touch the nanomaterial, it make a reaction. How this reaction is not happening in the reactor, where we have the nanocopper pin in the middle and the plasma around it.
Can you explain? I don't understand.
I mean, when we put the two plates in the container, creating the gans of whatever, you said that if the gans touch the nanoplate on the bottom, it creates a chemical reaction, which destroying the layer.
It creates a shortcut.
Yes, but when we build in your lab the copper reactor with the copper nano pin in the middle, we put the gans around it. It doesn't make a reaction also, or?
No, because it falls to the bottom of the container.
Okay.
In the
That was it, thank you.
You mean in the reactor? Marco is trying to explain to me.
I mean, when we make the reactor for the gans, if the gans on the bottom of the container touch the nano plate, you say that it's destroying the layer of the plate, the nano layer.
Yes, because what happened in that state, you create energy level equal to energy level of the plasma of electron between the two plates. You don't create an electron or electric current flow. You create a plasmatic flow in a level of electron between the plates. So you convert you become part of the chemical reaction more or less. And then you find out that production of the gans stops. Whenever you see the production of the gans slows down or stops, clean the container and clean your plate. Which means even though you don't see through the water, but there are too many processes of going on to produce gases that it creates a connection between two plates. It's a plasma magnetic field strength equal to electron. And that's where your problem starts. Because you already have started a connection through the wires between the two plates. And then now when the connection is made through plasmatic electron, it becomes balanced, so nothing happens. And you don't produce any more, what do you call it, gans in the container. Because even though it's invisible, but the field connection becomes the same, and you have already connected your wires from outside, you create a balanced environment in your liquid, so it stops. So if every time you come to a balanced production and you don't produce any more material, look at your the connection or the change of the salt water in your container, or there's a connection at the bottom.
So in the copper reactor, we have different environment with the pin in the middle.
With that we push the gans material to the walls. So you have
a picture on that I have. I'll show it on live stream there now, and you can see the
can't see the
material. You can't see the live stream. Well,
Just wait.
Okay.
I just pressed. Okay. I only see my pen on the live stream.
Okay, I had that up.
Okay.
I had that up beforehand, and I just took that down. And so this is a rotating ping pong ball that's lit up by a laser light, so you can see the actual material inside that goes to the walls, like you were saying, when it spins. So the center pin is insulated from the material on the walls. It's separated.
Yes. So look at what the plasma gives out and the effect of what gives out on its environment. The plasma of the copper coated plate in respect to the plasma of the it says, is this chat working? I don't see anyone. MV, it's working, yeah. The plasma which is created between the two plates dictates what strength it has. It gives out in the Z direction. That somebody's microphone is open. That it gives a strength in the position around the surface of the container equal to gravitational magnetic field of the CO2. In the copper oxide plate, you produce an environment for the CO2, but it's not that much of it. But you create a condition following. It's exactly when you put a copper nano-coated material and a copper plate in the salt water, all you do now, you are carrying with the same process as the caustic was doing in the container. With the difference that now you create the top atoms as a plasma on the copper plate to be loosened off and to become a gans. And immediately, because it's a copper in a nano state, in a gans state, it links up with the oxygen in the water, and you end up with copper oxide. This is the blue one, what you see on your screen. So it's a different process. It's different environment, different conditions created. In the children's program yesterday, we were talking about creating the condition. In the CO2, copper and zinc, you create an environment around the box because of the structure of this copper plasma. And that magnetic field is equal to CO2, which attracts the fields of the material exactly like a leaf, as we show in the presentation. In a copper with copper, the environment is you are separating the matter from the plate. You're not absorbing copper from the environment, because the environment, the condition you create in the salt water with the container with the plate, is equal to the strength of the copper, because one side is a copper itself and one side is an atomic copper. So the field is balanced for it. And that's why you see copper oxide at the bottom of your container. Do aluminium with aluminium and do aluminium with copper. Then what you get with aluminium, most probably if the field is correct and you chose the right salt condition, you will get nanogans of aluminium. Right? This is what you got to understand. You just look at what comes out. Understand, even though you're using the same process, you're creating different environmental conditions for the plates. And then you play with the ganses. Then you play which gans, look at the atomic structure, how many electrons, how many protons. That gives you indication of the field strength. And then you see how you play. How they interact and influence each other in totality when the system is run. It doesn't matter if you use it in the dynamic core, or doesn't matter if you use it in a static core. Next question. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Keshe, this is Lucian.
Just 1
If
second,
like,
Luciana. Luciana, wait.
yes,
Marco is telling me, ask me a question.
okay.
Therapy to extract
For what?
for chemotherapy to extract energy
Chemotherapy.
of chemicals that are used.
No, in a way you can't use the CO2 with chemotherapy. Apparently it's a question Marco tells me it's on the live stream. With the chemotherapy, you have two choices. To intervene at the time when you take the chemo, then you don't allow the chemo to kill or destroy the cancer cells, or allow the chemo to do its job and then enter the body through the bone marrow structure and bone structure to reduce the size of the limb. This is a problem with chemo. Chemo itself is the most beautiful material for destroying or opening up, not destroying, opening up the plasma of the cancer. But it's so powerful that it saturates, that it releases so much, what do you call it, residual of energy, that those energies can cross the intestine boundary into the lymph and expand the size of the lymph, that they get blocked on the bone. If you can deliver technology that reduces the strength of the lymph, then you will have no problem with chemotherapy. So CO2 you can't take to change the position of with the chemotherapy with CO2, because if it's taken as a tablet, is in there to create a high value energy. When you speak about medicines, when you speak about taking any kind of tablet, from now on, ask what's in the tablet. Look at the chemical component of it. Then write with it the atomic structure of it. How many proton, how many electron? And then understand the structure which is created, which of the material is there as a supplier and which one is as an absorber. And then, on the other hand, add the total number of protons and electrons together in each respect. And then if it's very high, then count for one additional proton, because if it's a large number of electrons involved in the chemical, that gives you the strength which is delivered to your body for what purpose. This is what they tell you, it breaks down to this chemical without enzymes in the body, and the rest is the same as what they call the Earth was the center of the universe. You have to understand what that chemical, once a matter enters the body, the job of the material in your stomach is to change its characteristics from a matter to a gans, to energy. Now you have to understand, as I said to the knowledge seekers, change your hat. Because you take a physical material tablet, you think it does the same thing in your body. This is the job. Let me explain to you, we come to this one day in the medical side. As I explained, with the work of the lung, when you breathe air, the liquid in the lung is the transition point to change the matter into the gans, that energy can be absorbed by the lung or transferred through the lung. The same thing is with the acids and the liquid in your stomach. There is no difference. So when you eat food, when you take medicine, when you take tablets, whatever, the job of the liquid in your stomach, you call it acids and enzymes and the rest, is to convert the matter to a gans that by passing through intestines can transfer its energy across the wall. In the lung, the contact point is very, very narrow at the level of the next to each blood vein, blood vessels which passes the lung. In the intestine is so long in the liquid of the plasma of the gans. And every twist and turn in your stomach, in your body, dictates what you absorb, what you have, what you receive from the food you digest. And as you've seen, when you turn a plate to another plate, you get a different gans, different energy. Even though you see as your stomach are twisted and turned next to each other, all that creates a specific gans inside what can be transmitted from the wall. This maybe the surgeons understand why when you open a stomach and you move things around, then you end up with new problems. Because you change the field, the strength which your body is used to absorb and dictate. So it's not just that your stomach is somewhere or whatever. It's that liquid in your stomach, how it changes the matter into a gans that its energy can be transferred across the wall. So the liquid is not just the acid in the stomach. That what you call acid is changing the matter into a gans, into a plasma. That its energy can be transferred. When you eat a cucumber doesn't pass your intestine into your lymph. Otherwise we see millions of cucumbers everywhere. Even it's a mush of what it is. The same thing is with chemotherapy. The same thing is with what do you call it? Chemicals we use for changing conditions. Add up the figures and look at the total energy of a proton, electrons, and a neutrons in that chemical. In a way, if it's very hard, what I say, if you look at it, for example, I don't know if you can see the picture here, if this is an electron and a proton, I don't see it on the live stream, but it doesn't matter, they most probably are picking it up. Yes, he's showing that where are we? Yep. So when you see an electron and a proton, you look at its total plasma. When you have an oxygen or you drink water, H2O, look at that, okay, that's 2 hydrogen. And now add in protons of the material and then neutrons. Now this is your plasma and this is the energy which is delivered. The indication of what you understand in matter state, then as a gans, this doesn't exist. This exists. This plasma. Because you don't see electrons and protons in the plasma as a gans. You see the strength. This is where the confusion has come with a lot of scientists in respect to the gans and the matter. Because in the atom of hydrogen, they look, okay, this is the hydrogen, we know 1 electron, 1 proton, and they look at it as a matter. But in fact, you got to look at this Coulomb's barrier. But this is in the matter state because it has to create a friction slightly stronger than a plasma. So that's why when you change the matter to gans, that slight friction energy which has to be released by the proton to show its manifestation that exists is slightly at a higher level than when it's the same thing in the gans. So when you convert matters into gans, you see energy. That's why you can write your lights. Because there is no loss of the field between the two entities. It's all one. And so there is no need for that friction, and there is no need for that friction. The gans shows itself as a hydrogen, behaves as a hydrogen, but you don't see a hydrogen. This is when the Nuclear Center in Italy did some tests on the materials they had from us. Chemically, they don't have a problem. But Raman spectroscopy says it's what it is of CO2. Even our Chinese colleagues in China have done the same. They are looking for a spectrum. They don't see the spectrum to CO2 in some of their tests. Because in their material they used, they have something else which shifted the size of the plasma to something else. As a strength. This is not the size, this is the strength when we speak about the plasma. As the size of neutron in this universe is the same all over, the size of the gans is always the same. It depends on what a strength reaches the boundary. And that strength is dictated by the amount of the principal matter in the center of the gans. So before you rush and do things with just because you know half of the story, please be careful. That's why I said I start teaching you step by step. And that's why I said if you have people in Africa with Ebola and everything else, even people with AIDS can start testing.
Yep. So Ki Long Hong asked, may I ask a question related to nanomaterials? It is said in Kesh's paper that the nano coatings spread their field strength to the salt solution, and those fields become gans later. So when the coatings are releasing these fields of themselves, will they decay? So I guess he's asking, does the nano coating decay?
They don't decay. It's just that the field interaction. If it's a copper which produces CO2, it creates an environment, it becomes a magnet. If it's a copper which is released from the plate, they don't decay, they interact. As I said, understand what you receive and what you produce. You give energy, you give part of the plasma, but you don't fall so much that you become from copper to CO2.
So would the coating or the copper oxide itself be a loss of copper oxide in the process, and would have to either be recoated later or something like that?
There is a possibility you don't get the strength continuously the same. You take it out and put it back in a caustic. In the leaflet which is going out with the units, I have mentioned that. This is what you have to you don't recoat. What you do, you rebalance the nano layers. If you get to the point that you don't have, or you see a weakness in production of CO2, all you do, you take the plate out, you drop it in a caustic, in a very slow process caustic, maybe with a steam type, and steam it and put it back in, and you carry on the same. There is something which you will understand, is that if you do the recoating too fast, then the top layers of your nanomaterial is loose. So you lose it into the caustic, and then when if you ever looked at your caustic when you finish making the nano layers, you see a mist like copper oxide, or you see a mist like CO2, and you think this is a residual from the caustic. But most of what you see as a mist is a CO2 which you have created and become a gas or a copper oxide layers which has been loose in a way you don't see.
Uh, okay, can I ask?
Yeah. No, go ahead, Ivan.
Do you hear me? Okay, so we set up a system producing GANs, and when the system starts to produce the GANs, we use a magnifying glass to point the sunlight in, and the GANs inside turn black. Do you know why is that?
The guns turn black where?
In the container where the GANs was produced. So the container was producing the GANs, and when we point the light from a magnifying glass, the GANs inside turn black.
Was it all the GANs or just the GANs where the light was attached?
I see on the picture that the guy sent me from England that is all the GANs inside is black. And
We
the
never
same thing.
had such a case.
The same thing happened in Germany when we did the experiment with the torch. I asked a friend to point light from a magnifying glass to one of the side, and then we have the GANs in copper layer, so the GANs inside turn black also.
It's
And that's
something
from
new for me.
direct interference with sunlight due to
Yeah,
a
but
magnifying
the
glass?
sunlight going from the magnifying glass.
Okay, can I ask you, can I come into this? Can you explain?
So we make a system, and the system start to produce GANs. So we
What
took a
system?
magnifying glass.
Slowly, go through your system. What is, oh, we run out of battery.
Okay, so it was not my system, but as I see how my friend constructed, it's a copper system with a copper nano layering and ordinary copper in a single container. And after the system started to produce GANs, we took a magnifying glass and we just point the sunlight inside from the glass. And on the picture I have here, I see that the GANs turn black.
Yes, you're correct. Now let's understand. Don't get excited. Understand what blackness means. The blackness means you have managed to create a complete GANs. But check one thing. If it's the black spherical or is it like a matter? If it is like a matter, it means your salt in your container is not strong enough or has the right salinity for the GANs which is released, or the nanomaterial which is released from the copper plate to be converted into GANs. So what you see, the black, is still in the nano state. Is a matter state of the atomic structure. Well, I was talking about this, I think, to the knowledge seekers or to somebody past couple of days. That you see if the copper, I think it was in the Chinese studies. I think I was explaining this. You can see it in one of the talks. This means what has happened, you still have a GANs which is absorbing all the fields. You don't have a GANs that is interacting. And most probably this happens not if you most probably had a very rapid interaction projection of the copper oxide when you started the process. So some of this GANs material is flaked off and it stays. Maybe 3 or 4 or 10 of them are still stuck together. They show themselves as one, but it's atomic, you don't see it. And so they still have the property of the nanomaterial. So you have a mixture of the GANs and nanomaterial of the same thing in your liquid. This is normal.
So in some way, do that process increase the
one of the things is, no, it's just you have to understand, because even though you buy copper, it's not all copper. of the same consistency. And this comes through that kind of construction. So when you see black material in your gans, unless you went to create a black material, because sometimes when you have iron, you get a black, what do you call it, gans. So it means most probably in your copper sheet was not totally copper, there is mixture of iron. Like the way you see copper oxide in blue or different kind of shade of blue and green is CH4. The CH4 and copper oxide are very near in color to each other. One is bluish green and the other one is greenish blue. And so you most probably done two things. Let's say this, let me explain to you, maybe you understand it. If you put 10 atoms of nanomaterial next to each other, you have released the number 1 and number 10, and you have, through some process, you have released all the numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the layer below. So now you have a floating, what do you call it, nano material in your mixture. This happens a lot. So it can be explained. You have a black material, you have an iron in it, which is near black, but the black iron is not black, it's grayish black. Or most probably you have started a very fast process and these are parts of the nanomaterial which haven't converted yet. Take them out. If you can separate them, CO2 floats very, very slow, the gans of CO2. It's like a balloon. The black should be heavier and still in the matter should go to the bottom faster. If you can separate them, change the salinity and you see if you get a release. Or put it near the electrode and see if you can get a field. This you have created in pure nanomaterial.
Mm-hmm.
We can explain this because this is something I've seen for some time.